Peace and love, family. Welcome back to the Hope, Helping Our People Elevate YouTube channel, where we dive into history, culture, and the stories that shape our world. Today, we're unpacking a controversial and complex topic, the use of blackface and traditions across Europe, Spain, and America. We'll explore the historical ties to the Moors, Zwarte, and Black communities with insights from NBC News, CNN Travel, and History Channel's website. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the deep dives into cultural history. And to all the subscribers, thank you for continuing support. Remember to like the video and drop a comment below with your thoughts or questions. Let's get started. Peace and love, family.
On behalf of Akuno Sanko for Bay, you know what I'm saying? Jay, where you at? We're trying to help our people elevate. Hope. H-O-P-E. We're giving them hope. We doing what we gotta do, you know. Every day, one step at a time, man. We gonna make it happen. Helping our people elevate. Sometimes I practice focus, thought, and meditate. I'm trying to come with other ways to help our people elevate. And seeking knowledge make me levitate. The lifted mental state is what results from how we orchestrate. This for the family's sake. Let's self-reflect and self-evaluate. And every day, make sure the steps you take, you calculate. Receive a master's fate. I know I can't exist without the hate, but that's okay. I balance that with higher self today. Success is on this way, and after that, my flesh can pass away.
Across these regions, blackface has historically been used to ridicule, dehumanize, or perpetuate stereotypes about the Moors, so-called blacks, and other marginalized groups. While some defend these practices as cultural tradition, they remain deeply tied to histories of colonialism, slavery, and systematic racism. And so then we're going to a brief history of blackface in Europe, Spain, and the Americas. Blackface in Europe has roots in medieval times, often linked with depictions of Moors in religious plays and festivals. These portrayals were heavily saturated, emphasizing otherness and inferiority. Zwarte of the Netherlands, introduced in the 19th century, Zwarte is a character in Dutch Christmas traditions. Historically, this figure was portrayed in blackface, perpetuating stereotypes of enslaved black people as helpers or subordinates. Modern controversies, many European countries continue to grapple with blackface roles and cultural traditions, sparking debates on racism and cultural sensitivity. Spain, Moors and festivals. Spanish festivals as Moros and Cristianos, or Moors and Christians, reenact historical battles between Moors and Spaniards. Participants often darken their skin to represent Moors, perpetuating racialized stereotypes. Its carnival practices. Blackface occasionally appears during carnival celebrations, where exaggerated portrayals of Africans or Afro-Caribbeans pictures are often part of sacrificial performances. And then we have the minstrel shows of the 19th century in America. Minstrel shows emerged in the early 19th century as a form of entertainment where white performers darken their face with burnt cork to mimic or mock black people. These performances depicted black people as lazy, foolish, and subservient, reinforcing racial stereotypes. Its legacy. Blackface became a staple in American entertainment, appearing in films, theater, and cartoons well into the 20th century, playing a lasting impact on racial attitudes in the United States. Let's go into the article from NBC News on the fight against Black Piet, a holiday blackface tradition. Activists in the Netherlands are fighting against a symbol of racism, a central character in the Dutch Christmas customs that dons blackface. As you see this image here, this is a little European child with her European father. See the Europeans in the background who aren't participating in the blackface as far as the painting of the facial expressions. But you see they got their black gloves on, they have their black curly wigs, they have their black face paint with red lips. You tell me who they're mocking or mimicking. Who does it look like to you? As families around the world enjoy their treasures and timeless holiday traditions this week, a group of activists in the Netherlands are fighting against a symbol of racism, a central character in the Dutch Christmas customs that dons blackface each season. Every year, many Dutch citizens dress in colonial-style costumes, paint their lips red, wear curly afro wigs, and don blackface to become the minstrel-like character Zwarte, or Black Piet, who was supposed to help Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, spread holiday cheer around the country. So the concept of Santa's elf originates from Zwarte, or Black Piet, who was a Moor in Europe. Santa Claus, the celebration of the feast of the day of St. Nicholas, is the biggest children's holiday in the Netherlands. While the holiday itself is celebrated on December 5th, throughout the Santa Claus season, actors playing St. Nicholas and his Black Piet visit towns and cities around the country. Often perceived as central to national Dutch folklore, Santa Claus is so popular that retailers are said to make millions in additional revenue annually from the sales of merchandise featuring images of Black Pete. Protesters, including Zwarte is Racism Project co-founder Jerry Afriye, briefly brought the November Santa Claus arrival parade to a halt by blocking the path of men dressed as Black Pete. So the image we're seeing is Jerry Afriye and many others in the community stopping these people who were dressed as Black Pete in the month of November. Over the last few years, a fierce debate has emerged of the Netherlands about the controversial character. Traditionalists say Black Pete is just another part of innocent children's holiday, which also includes singing songs, exchanging poems, gifts, and spending time with family. Some even say he only appears black because he was covered in soot when he came down the chimney bearing gifts. For them, it is no way associated with slavery or racism. Go read the books on the Moors in Europe, volumes 1, 2, and 3, and you'll see what happened in Europe with the Moors. However, those against the tradition quickly point out that the character comes from a 19th century children's book, St. Nicholas and His Servant, in which the servant, Black Pete, is described as a black Moor from Spain. While Black Pete may be a part of a Dutch folklore, his portrayal is part of a historical negative stereotypes of Black people dating back to colonialism. These damaging representations, including portraying Black people as stupid, lazy, and uncivilized caricatures for entertainment, and many would argue that these representations have impacted the way that Black people are viewed by some to present day. Activists say Black Pete not only perpetuates those negative stereotypes, but contributes to the discriminatory manner in which Black people in the Netherlands are treated. For white people, it's great, but for Black people, it's one of the worst times to be in Holland, because everywhere you go, you are faced with this offensive blackface, offensive caricatures reminding a lot of people of slavery, said Mitchell Azajes, co-founder of Stop the Blackface, which is part of the Kick Out Zwarte coalition in the Netherlands. Kick Out Zwarte peaceful protests against Black Pete's have received many messages of hate and threats of violence. Following the first protest this year at a national Santa Claus arrival parade in the city of Meppel, Asahed says a selfie he posted on Facebook of some KOZ members received 10,000 threatening and racist reactions. Among them were threats of bodily harm and even death for, as one of the commenters put it, trying to F up a children's party in a country where the Black people are only guests. Asahed says it's comments like these that show just how little many Dutch actually know about the country's history of widespread colonization and its major role in the transatlantic slave trade.
Laten we het ook zo houden dan. Het is eigenlijk een hele dikke onzin wat hier aan deze kant van de hek staat.
Which old one race superior and another inferior?
Volgens mij weet iedereen dat Zwarte Piet door het roet zwart is en niet door andere dingen. Dus ja, ik vind het een beetje onzin, maar dat is mijn mening.
Ja, joh, ik ben gewoon normaal doorsnee mensen in Nederland. Laten we zo bestellen dan. Hè?
Je bent toch een domme knecht. Het karakter van de actie zal wel in de komende jaren veranderen.
Kan je een tipje van de sluier oplichten?
Het lijkt me niet verstandig om typisch van de sluier te geven daarover. Maar het is logisch dat op het moment dat iemand jou trapt en jij zegt van hey, het is een beetje vervelend als je me trapt en diegene trapt je.
We are Dutch and there are thousands of people who feel this tradition is hurting them. They are also Dutch. They grew up here. They were born here, said Jerry Afriye, an activist and artist whose violent 2011 arrest for protesting Black Pete along with fellow artist Quincy Guerrero has helped bring the issue to the mainstream. The Dutch people, they believe about themselves that they are tolerant, but then when you point out this, you get an aggressive reaction and it shows that there is still conflict within. It shows that there is something wrong. It shows that there is racism, Asahas added. When you talk about these things, people will say, there is no racism here. Racism is something in America, said Afriye. Afriye feels there's a need for more acknowledgement on the racism that currently exists, adding, it's not just about Zwarte, it's about discrimination on the job market, police brutality, racial profiling. The fact that if I were to jump into a Lexus now and drive, I would be stopped in 10 minutes. This is an image of Quincy on the left and Jerry on the right in the silent protest of 2011 Santa Claus parade. This is the image that brought the mainstream attention because of their shirt saying Zwarte is racism. Now we'll dive into the blackface controversy which hit Spain's Three Kings parade. This was published by the CNN Travel in 2023. A Spanish tradition of people wearing blackface to represent one of the three wise men or three kings and parades across the country has sparked calls to end the controversial practice. The events are held on January 6th to celebrate the arrival of the wise men in Bethlehem for the birth of Christ. People fill the streets and exchange gifts in the evening to mark the end of the Christmas season in Spain. One of the wise men, Balthazar, is often depicted as a Middle Eastern or black man in art, according to Western church tradition. In several Spanish towns and cities, including Alcoy in Valencia and Igualada in Catalonia, Balthazar's assistants wear blackface during parades. Criticism of the controversial practice has grown in recent years, with calls of the use for the blackface to be scraped and the Balthazar to be played by a black person. So as I read above of them saying that in the Bible it says that Balthazar was a black man, or we'll say a Moor. Here's another image of them in Spain mocking or representing the Moors. You don't see Europeans dressed like this. This is Islamic attire, Islamic culture. Afro-feminist and anti-racism group wants the practice to be abolished. It doesn't matter what you think you're trying to represent. It doesn't matter that you think this is how you make children happy. It doesn't matter if it's a tradition. If you paint yourself a color that is not yours, that is racist, said Vera Schwartz Lorenzo, a member of the group, in a statement. The parade helps to normalize slavery as something harmless and inconsequential in the collective imagination, which is completely untrue, Lorenzo said. Afro-Mania argues that the old tradition perpetuates modern injustices. The dehumanizing stereotypes peddled by the practice strokes further prejudice against migrant populations in the place where the parades are held, the group adds. TV3, a television channel in Catalonia, told CNN that they only broadcast from the parade in Barcelona where blackface is not used. TV3 has rejected proposal to broadcast some cavalcades live precisely because blackface was performed, said a spokesman for the channel Thursday. Yet, despite criticisms, preparations for this year's parade, which will be held on Friday, press on. The organizers of the event in Igualada told CNN that about 1,000 volunteers will participate in this parade. This is why blackface is offensive. Participation for this celebration is open to the entire population without any type of distinction or discrimination, said the organizing committee of the cavalcades of the Kings of Igualada. I could be saying that wrong, so y'all forgive me. They said the volunteers are the reflection of an open and inclusive city. The organizer said, "We are always respectful towards criticism," adding that critiques are analyzed and taken through an internal process of debates. The organizer said that they have trailed solutions that continue to include the historical side of the celebration, the volunteers and citizens of the city. However, they did not specify what these solutions involved nor how they plan to respond to the criticism faced by the parade. This year, in 2023, and like it had been done since 1899, the parade in Igualada will be majestic and, most importantly, it will be magical, organizers added. Jordi Martinez, deputy mayor of Alcoy, has defended the tradition. "For those that dress up, it's an honor. It's not a degrading thing," he told newsletter La Vanguardia. He conceded that in time, steps would have to be taken to reflect the concerns of those who are opposed to the practice, but ultimately the success of the parade is that we make it as traditional as possible. Now, I'd like to close it with how the history of blackface is rooted in racism, and how blackface became popular in the United States after the Civil War, as white performers played characters that demeaned and dehumanized African Americans, so-called black people who were really Moors. The portrayal of blackface when people darken their skin with shoe polish, grease paint, or burnt cork and paint enlarged lips or other exaggerated features is steeped in centuries of racism. It peaked in popularity during an era in the United States when demand for civil rights by recently emancipated slaves triggered racial hostility. And today, because of blackface's historic use to generate people of African descent, its continued use is still considered racist. It's an assertion of power and control, says David Leonard, a professor of comparative ethnic studies and American studies at Washington State University. It allows the society to routinely and historically imagine African Americans as not fully human. It serves to rationalize violence and Jim Crow segregation. Although the exact moment when blackface originated isn't known, its root date back for centuries of old European theatrical productions, most famously Shakespeare's Othello. The practice then began in the United States in the 18th century when European immigrants brought the genre over and performed in seaports along in the Northeast, says Delphine Brooks, a professor of African American Studies and Theater Studies at Yale University. But the most famous sort of era to think as being the birth of the form itself is the antebellum era of the early 19th century, Brooks says. Thomas Dartmouth Rice, an actor born in New York, is considered the father of minstrelsy. After reportedly traveling to the South and observing slaves, Rice developed a black stage character called Jim Crow in 1830. With quick dance moves and exaggerated African American vernacular and buffoonish behavior, Rice founded a new genre of racialized song and dance, Blackface minstrel shows, which became central to America's entertainment in the North and South.
You need to have to put me through a simple self-examination.
No, stupid. You mean a civil service examination.
White performers in blackface played characters that perpetuated a range of negative stereotypes about African Americans, including being lazy, ignorant, superstitious, hypersexual, criminal, and cowardly. These were actresses Shirley Temple in blackface and Hannah Washington on the right in the 1935 film The Little Rebel. Several characters in minstrel shows became archetypes as described in the University of Florida's digital exhibit, History of Minstrels, from Jim Crow to jazz singers. Some of the most famous ones were Rice Jim Crow, a rural dancing fool in tattered clothing, the Mammy, an overweight and loud mother figure, and Zip Coon, a flamboyant dressed man who used sophisticated words incorrectly. Most of the minstrel show actors were working-class Irishmen from the Northeast who performed in blackface to distance themselves from their own local social, political, and economic status in the United States, says Leonard. They did it to authenticate their whiteness, he says. It was the same as saying we can become the other and mock the other and assert our superiority by dehumanizing the other. Blackface minstrel shows soared in popularity, in particular during the period after the Civil War and into the start of the 20th century, as documented in the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Cultural Official Blackface History. The widespread demeaning portrayals of African Americans paralleled a period when Southern states legislators were passing black codes to restrict the behavior of former slaves and other African Americans. In fact, the codes were also called Jim Crow laws after the blackface stage character. This is a group of Klansmen surrounding Freeman Gus, played by white actor Walter Long in blackface, in the scene from director D.W. Griffith's motion picture, The Birth of a Nation in 1915. And so you see it in the early 1900s, late 18th century, they were coming with films where they were putting this blackface out, mocking the ancestors, mocking so-called black people. As society modernized, so did the way in which blackface was portrayed. Not only was blackface in theaters, but it moved to the film industry. In the blockbuster movie, The Birth of a Nation, blackface characters were seen as unscrupulous and rapists. The stereotypes were so powerful, they became a recruiting tool for the Ku Klux Klan. African Americans protested the film's portrayal and its distorted take on the post-Civil War era, yet it continued to be popular among white audiences. There are different ways to which blackface became weaponized as a form of white supremacy propaganda, says Brooks. African Americans also performed in blackface, given it was the only way to get into the entertainment industry. But their performances counter some of the primitive representations that were popularized. Black artists Burt Williams and George Walker infused political commentary with their comedic minstrel routines, offering a more intelligent representation of African Americans. But blackface minstrelsy remained a genre heavily dominated by white actors. Al Jolson, a Lutheran Jewish immigrant who came to New York as a child, became one of the most influential blackface stars of the 20th century, including his 1927 hit film, The Jazz Singer. This is Al Jolson wearing blackface in character as Sambo in 1925. The appeal of blackface declined after the 1930s and into the Civil Rights Movement. However, the negative stereotypes of African Americans and mocking the dark skin have persisted in recent decades. For example, blackface appeared in the Oscar ceremony in 2012 on television skits, and wearing blackface to dress up as famous African Americans during Halloween remained an ongoing issue. Most recently, outrage ensued when Virginia Governor Ralph Northam and the State Attorney General Mark Herring both admitted in February 2019 to wearing blackface costumes as young men. As Leonard says, blackface is a part of a toxic culture of racism. Family, I want to say thank you so much for watching and exploring this important topic with me. Blackface has a long and a complex history from Europe and Spain and the minstrel shows in America, and understanding its origins help us reflect on its impact today. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the role of these traditions in modern society? Drop your comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. If you found this video informative, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future deep dives like this one. And as always, thank you for your support. I'd like to see you in the next video. Peace and love, family.